Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. 5 ways to avoid high silver premiums. Let's explore! The cost of silver has gone up. It's no surprise to anyone out there. In fact, you'd have to be living under a rock or underneath a huge silver brick to think otherwise. And it's not just the spot price of silver that has climbed, although, to the chagrin of many of us out there, we think it should be more than it is now. The premiums certainly have been very painful for most of us that are buying. In fact, those premiums are along every avenue of the process that it takes to produce, mine, and sell, strike silver. In whatever form it is, it's just become more costly. But those premiums have also translated to you when you need to sell. Very rarely will someone just give you spot price for an ounce of silver. So that's a good thing. However, it's not as comforting when you know that the spread between the price that you get for your silver on average is wider than it was before the pandemic and before this big silver squeeze went on. In other words, what you could get it for under spot before the pandemic and before 2020, even though it was less than spot, the spread is much wider now than it was back then. And so that is something to take into account too. So how do you solve this problem of these high premiums? What are some of the ways to avoid these high premiums? Well, we're going to go over that in this video that was inspired by a member of the community who sent me a link to an article from a bullion dealer. And I don't want to necessarily mention that bullion dealer, but I think it's a good, an excellent way to be able to consider the different options for buying silver out there that will help you to save money. And really, from that article, they are pushing you to want to go to one particular method. But there's really 5 methods to be able to avoid high silver premiums. And we're going to go over them, starting with the most obvious, and that has always been the case. The larger the size of the silver bar that you buy, the smaller the premium. And that's right, I'm saying bar because, yes, there are 10-kilo silver coins out there, but they're very highly collectible, and you will pay a very high premium for those 10-kilo silver bars. And by the way, that's still less than the largest bar that you can buy. Those 10-kilo silver rounds or coins are pricey and kind of hard to store, but the 1,000-ounce bars are not. Now, they're very big, and they're very heavy, about 72 pounds, but they're easy to store. You know, when you take into account that's a concentration of a lot of silver in a relatively small space, but they are big. I've seen one in person. They are pretty substantial. But that means that when you buy one of those things, you are paying less than you would for a 100-ounce bar in a kilo size and so forth. And so you can save. But with what's been going on lately, and we've seen people buy these 1,000-ounce bars as part of the silver squeeze. They want to get one of these contract bars. The problem with those is that they're much more difficult to liquidate, and most of the people that do buy them, well, they buy them as a contract to store them somewhere else. But there are people taking physical delivery of those bars, and even though they are 999s fine, they're not in a mode that is easily where you're able to really recast them into a different form. They're industrial grade, in other words. And so essentially the way they are is the way they're going to be, unless you have know somebody that can break it up and get it to a level or a point where it can be melted down and reconstituted into different products. You know, when you think about it being utilized in industry, there is a process that it takes from those 1,000-ounce bars to the application, such as silver paste, for instance, for solar panels. So that is one option in order to buy. So if you think of this bar that I'm holding right here, this is a poured bar reconstituted from different silver elements. I don't think you could really take those 1,000-ounce bars and create it in this form. But this, let's pretend this is a 1,000-ounce bar and you've got it and you're holding it. This piece of silver here is unmarked, and no one really knows it's silver unless they test it. And the problem with those 1,000-ounce bars is that, you know, they very well could easily be drilled and hollowed out and some other metal placed in there. That's the fear. In fact, you may have seen the Pawn Stars episode where they drill into one of those bars and to test it, and they did see that it was real silver, but you kind of destroy the integrity of the bar when you do that. So there's kind of some drawbacks in the buying at that level. The premiums have gone up even on those, but that's still less than the regular high premiums we're paying these days. The second way to avoid high silver premiums is to transact peer-to-peer. And that means that if you have a buddy or you know somebody that's selling silver, you can buy from them. In fact, I know of somebody, and I've bought some constitutional silver from them at lower than normal premiums, but I was fair in the transaction. And so if you can find somebody who wants to sell silver and a dealer will pay them $1 above spot for it per ounce, maybe you can pay them $1.50 per ounce over spot, and they can make a little bit more money and they don't have to worry about either driving to the dealer or what have you. Those transactions can also be made online through various platforms, social media platforms like Instagram, Reddit, Facebook, etc. When you deal in those social media platforms, trust is paramount. You have to know who you're dealing with. Be very careful transacting on those platforms. And that is the bottom line. You can't be too careful when dealing in those avenues. The savings in high premiums for that is not worth it if you're going to get fake silver, or they just take your money and run. And you don't want that, for sure. The third way to be able to save save from the high premiums is to buy constitutional silver. That's right, constitutional silver, such as these Walking Liberty halves, or Kennedy halves, or Franklin halves, or various different quarters or dimes. Those are ways to be able to save, because the premiums, though they've increased somewhat for the constitutional silver, some places they're not selling it for as high as others. So you have to kind of shop around for those. But in most cases, you can find little better deals because this stuff has already been produced. It's already been, and unless there's a great demand locally for it, you're more than likely to find better deals for constitutional silver. It also includes spending silver in that as well. Spending silver is a term I came up with that I think is better to use than junk silver, because silver is not junk in my mind. And so you can find pieces like this that may have varying different purities, such as 720, 90%, 80%, or what have you. But you can find really good deals on these if you shop around and look around. And that's kind of what I've been doing. I'll probably do a video on that in due course. But constitutional spending silver, there's a ways to save and be able to add to your stack. The drawback to that, especially with the spending silver, world spending silver, is it may not be as recognized, and you're more than likely going to get under spot for it, especially if you bought from the same dealer, because they paid very little for it, and it's not as liquid. But it's fun to kind of collect, and you still have the wealth preservation aspect of it. I was at my local coin shop literally today, and I got this. Now, this is 90% silver. This is a commemorative coin from 2007, and I was very fortunate to get this at under $1 above spot, mainly because I guess it's very common, and it didn't come with the original packaging. It just came in a flip, and so I was able to add that to the stack to get a little bit of a deal on silver. And so sometimes you can find deals like that if you are expeditious and you are you're kind of alert and prepared for such a thing. And so that's the way to do it, because normally for regular bullion products, you will pay a premium, even for generic or name brand bars out there. You're going to pay a fairly high premium for this stuff. So it's always wise to kind of do your own due diligence and research and look out for the deals that are out there, for sure. And so there is a way to do it, because what's going to happen in due course is, as the premiums start to come back down, and they will only come back down once the mints that produce these, or the fabrication entities, once they catch up or buying activity subsides. That's the only way the premiums are going to come down. And we are certainly months away from that. In fact, it very well could intensify. There's talk about another silver raid coming up. And so if we see increased demand for the physical, we're going to see the premiums continue to increase. And that's the one thing we have to keep into account here, is that premiums are here to stay for quite a while. So it's good to be expeditious and try to look out for those deals if you can. That's kind of what I've been doing for silver. But it's been fun for me because I like collecting some different types of silver products out there. May not be so good for me when I go to liquidate, though. And this is where the next two come into place, because they are the most liquid ways to buy silver. And you're not going to like it, some of you. Number 4 is to buy a digital version of silver. And how does a digital version of silver come about? What does it constitute of? Well, the dreaded ETFs, exchange traded funds, or ETPs, exchange traded products. You can buy SLV, PSLV, iShares Trust. There's others, various entities out there that you can buy it. And if you buy SLV, most of us know that there's not enough physical to back up each of those transactions. So you're not really buying silver, you're buying a representation of silver, and that's just the cash value of the silver. So in a way, that's a very loose way to be able to buy silver at a lower premium, because are you really buying silver? I don't really consider that buying silver. It's just the price representation of silver. PSLV is sort of in between those two, because Sprott says that each one of those ounces that you buy in PSLV is backed by the actual physical. And so that is one way to buy it as well, too. That's closer. The other way is to utilize different digital gold and silver exchanges and monetary systems. And that would be things like One Gold, some Dylan Gage and involved in that type of thing, where you can buy actual digital gold and silver in small increments for a very low premium, and literally exchange that for product at a bullion dealer or what have you. There's another one where it's a whole entire monetary system called Kinesis, and that uses the blockchain, but you are buying literally physical gold and silver at low premiums, and you can utilize those holdings for various transactions within the system or even outside of the system. So that's the other way. And I think the other entities such as One Gold, Kinesis, and digital gold and silver, it certainly is much more apropos for many of us stackers out there. The 5th way to be able to buy is to buy the physical and then store it off-site. And there's places that will take monster boxes of Eagles that you buy from them, and they will store them off-site for a lower premium. But that's the 5th way to be able to buy silver and store it off-site. Now, if you do that, you will essentially save. In fact, that's one of the things that that this dealer is talking about here, that they will allow you to be able to buy silver at a discount if you store it with their vaults. And so there are cases where that can be done. And of course, you might have to take into account storage fees and other things. And you know the old saying, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. There's that you have to get around. But if you trust the storage facility and they're offering you a discount in order to store with them, then it may be worth a look to be able to buy the physical and store it off-site, and then be able to liquidate that at a time of your choosing or their choosing. That's the thing. You're at the mercy of their schedule and their delivery fees and the like, and all different manner of forms to take into account there. So there you go. So those are the 5 ways that you can avoid high silver premiums. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Can you think of any other way? I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.